So you've been in the barber game for nearly 2 decades. What kept you grounded and passionate all these years?
We don't have many businesses that cater to our people and at the same time give back to our people.
I have to do my part to, prepare things for them in the future. So for kids to have that safe place where they know they can pull up or they can get that quick mentorship or, hey, OG, what you think about this, and getting that feedback, I think that's very important for our community.
Me not take God out of it.
Amen.
Because, God forges these friendships, these partnerships that I have and people I've been knowing for years, So I'm gonna say God first. And, when you do something, when you're doing God's work, it's gonna align. It's gonna fall together, even when you don't want to.
Think big. God blesses us with these big visions. He's not giving us anything little. He's blessing us. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Jazmin J, with Business Talks with Jazmin J, where we talk all things strategy, all things business, the good, the bad, the ugly, the challenges, the successes, the wins, all of it. So today I have a special guest, and I want to take the time to let him introduce himself. First of all, how you doing today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
All right. You mind telling us who you are and what it is that you do?
First of all, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday. I told the crew that before you came too.
You got me here on my birthday. My name is Joseph Rockmore, a.k.a. Rock. I own Rock Boyz Beauty and Barber Salon.
Yeah.
I also, I think my baby is Rockin Hood, nonprofit, where we help kids with for them not to have low self-esteem.
Yeah.
We're a self-esteem boosting organization, and that's my baby.
Love that. So we're definitely going to get more into that. So as I was doing my research on you, the theme I came up with was legacy, leadership, and lining up the community, because I feel like you're doing that both through the barbershop as well as the nonprofit efforts. So let's dig right into it.
Let's go.
So I want to make sure I'm not flipping too fast. Okay, so start off telling us about the Rock Boyz Barbershop. So how did that come about? I know there used to be AJ's.
Yeah, it used to be AJ's, formerly known as AJ's. Miss Sandra Berry, she was gracious enough to not only let me in, coming from the north side of Houston. I'm from Acres Homes, so the barbershop is in Sunnyside.
That's where my family's from.
What's that?
Sunnyside.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Okay. So I took my talents to the Sunnyside area, and she allowed me to come in there and make an impact and kind of structure the business because she didn't know about barbering. She was just pretty much a business person that wanted to make some money from it. She let me structure the business, and she got tired of the business, and she sold it to me later on in about maybe 3 years into it, or 2 years into it. So, and we've been there for 20 years. This August, we would have been 20 years, but we're about to make a move.
Okay, I'm so excited to get more into all of this. So where exactly in Sunnyside are you located?
We're on Reed Road, 2705 Reed Road. We're attached to the Chevron.
Okay.
Right there on Reed Road in 2888.
So why do you feel it's important to have businesses like in the community, like in the Black community like that?
Because number one, we don't have many businesses that cater to our people and at the same time give back to our people. I think that's more important than anything else. You make a lot of businesses make money in the hood, and they don't necessarily give back. They don't sow back into the they don't sow what they reap. Right. So they take money from the neighborhood, and they don't return anything to us.
Yeah, and pour it back into the community.
Right.
So before you actually bought the barbershop, you were already a licensed barber?
Correct.
So when did all of that start? How long have you been an actual barber?
Professional since '98. I just wanted to be my own boss.
Yeah.
And my mother, who's not with us anymore, she kept telling me I've been cutting hair for the longest time. I used to cut, you know, in the neighborhood, but I never took it seriously. And then I was working for Goodman Manufacturing, and the situation with that made me be able to pivot comfortably into my own business.
So what was the moment or the experience where you said, okay, I'm going to take this for me just being a barber to actually owning my own business and providing other opportunities for other people? What was that moment where you decided, okay, I'm going to buy my own barbershop?
Honestly, I already felt like my own boss.
Yeah.
You know, only thing it was I was paying rent. You know what I mean? I was just paying somebody rent, but this was mine. Like that chair was mine. And the same thing I teach the other barbers. Like I own the building, but this is your business.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I like a situation where people walk in and they don't know who's the owner. You know, everybody looks like a boss instead of just one person. This is mine. This is mine. No, it's ours.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely come from that same type of mentality like here at the studio. You know, a lot of times people don't even know that I'm the owner of the studio because I'm around here with everybody else. I'm moving stuff, cleaning restrooms, whatever the case may be, because this is for all of us. You know, like it takes a team to really build
Right.
and scale at the level where I want to be. So I say, hey, we're all putting in on this.
Right.
So I love that mentality.
Right.
So let's talk. So before I go to the going from barbershop chair to nonprofit, let's talk about Rockin Hood Foundation for a second. How did that come about?
Myself, well, I'll start. I had a client, she told me that her kid would have to get his hair cut shorter that trip because, and I asked her why. She was like, because I know how she liked to keep his hair. And she was like, I can't afford to bring him for back to school. You know, I got a lot of other stuff going on. You know, little do people realize that there ain't better financial situations. School normally starts a week or so before rent.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
rent is like that next week, and that it's kind of my mother went through the same situation where she was like, do I buy clothes? Am I gonna pay rent? Is it gonna be late? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that kind of tugged at my heartstrings hearing that from her because I went through the same thing. You know, my mother, she would have to make a choice between buying school clothes and paying rent. You know, you got rent, and a lot of people have car notes and all of this stuff, and it takes $500 per child every year to get people, and that's just the regular stuff. That's not even talking about
This is a starter kit.
Right. That's just the regular stuff to get them off to school.
Yeah.
But it takes $500, and God forbid you have 2 kids, you know, or 3 kids, or 4 kids. Some people have 4 kids. Some kids are living with their grandmothers, and like I said, that tugged at my heartstrings. So I adopted that child, and then we just kind of I spoke with Fred Weary. He used to play for the Houston Texans, and my brother Chris Boykins with Glory Fitness and Boykins Youth Foundation. They already had that thing set up for nonprofits, and Mr. Earl Ballard, he was with 102. But we all came together and we just kind of brainstormed it, and they believed in what I said, and they saw the need for it, and we all got together. I'm trying to think of it's a riding club. I don't want to leave them out.
You don't want to
I don't want
misquote
to leave
it.
them out because
Yeah.
they actually helped out a lot. But you know, Big Rob, and let me give him a shout out. But Tiny, we all got together and we did it all at the shop. And I mean, I wish I had all the news and stuff like that. It was big from the day one. Like
Yeah.
we stayed in at 11, 12 o'clock that night, from like 8 o'clock that morning to 11 o'clock at night. And the barbers and the beauty, all the beauticians and everything. Yeah, they just believed in what I was doing.
Man, that's a beautiful thing. So with that collaboration, right? Because I think a lot of times people, the right collaborations where you're aligned, I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
people don't realize how much that helps scale your business, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit. So how important was those collaborations for you? Like, do you feel like you would still have been able to do what you're doing without them believing in your dream at the beginning?
Well, I'm gonna say this. Let me not take God out of it,
Amen.
because God forges these friendships,
Yeah.
these partnerships that I have, and people I've been knowing for years. So I'm gonna say God first, and when you do something, when you're doing God's work, it's gonna align. It's gonna fall together, even when you don't want to.
Yep.
It's gonna fall. It's gonna fall together. And I'm not gonna say apart. It's gonna fall together. And yeah, but back to what you said, we need that, and everybody's pretty much black, or I get a lot of help from Paul from Active Athlete, so I have people like that help out. Sam from Suits You, they help out a lot. But people like that. But other than that, it's ground. It's pretty much ground roots. Like people that come to the shop, people with everyday jobs. They take from their family and they give to other families. And, being able to bless others. And I got a slogan: "It's each one teach one." So that's where I go with that.
Love that. So, speaking more about that, from the barbershop chair to nonprofit champion, the legacy of Rock Boyz Barbershop. So you've been in the barber game for nearly 2 decades. What kept you grounded and passionate all these years?
The people. Seeing the young people come in there every day. You have single mothers that really want the best for their children.
Yes.
Starting with a haircut. They understand the self-esteem, and they understand self-esteem and how something as small as a haircut make you feel better. A lot. Just like you, if you get your hair done, you feel better.
Yep.
You got your clothes together. You drip. you feel good about yourself.
For sure.
You want to rock for the rest of the day. You want people to not only see you, you want them to feel you and understand what you're about. And it starts with a haircut.
Yeah.
It starts with your hair. Like people, that's one of the first things people look at is your hair or the condition that it's in. And me being in the business, I can see a lot of, like, I can cut somebody's hair and know if they're on medicine, or it's the largest organ. But I can know if they're on medicine or if they're stressed out or that type of thing. You get that feeling, from hair. And
that's wow. I never knew that. I never knew that you can learn so much about a person from their hair. Because I grew up wearing a lot of weave before I went natural. Then I was natural for about 4 years, and then I decided to lock my hair. But my lock journey and what I've done with my hair these last 4 years has changed my life.
Right.
Like, my lock journey and my journey as a woman, my journey as an entrepreneur, my journey as a mother, like, all that has grown with my lock journey. So I've realized the importance of, like, being in tune with your hair and just overall appearance when you're growing or scaling or God is transforming you.
Right.
For sure. I love that. So what does the barbershop represent to the community beyond just a haircut?
Man, it's a place that kids come in there and they get some game, from real OGs. They call me OGs, and it's not about the gray beard or the grays. It's about the being able to help kids navigate their lives, from adolescence to being a grown man. Giving people, we're able to talk about mental health for one thing. Like I'm an advocate of taking care of your mental health.
Yep.
Going to counseling, seeking help outside of drugs.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people just want to come in there and just be around some men, some positivity.
Yeah.
We try to keep it as positive as possible. A lot of, being in the neighborhood as long as I have been, they respect it. They come in there and it's a safe haven.
Yes.
Kids come in there and make some money, sweep, or you pay for your haircut with sweep the floor. I don't give them nothing. Pay for your haircut by sweeping the floor.
Yeah.
Take some trash out, whatever.
Definitely. Definitely. It sounds like a pillar in the community.
It is.
And that's having that safe place, especially for the youth, because that's why I'm so attracted to organizations like this, and this is why I like to talk to the founders and owners and things like that, because I'm a youth advocate. Like,
right.
I just left speaking at a school before I got here because they're our future. First of all, I'm a mother of three Gen Z kids, so I'm looking at everything and I'm like, oh no, I have to do my part prepare things for them in the future. So for kids to have that safe place where they know they can pull up or they can get that quick mentorship or, hey, OG, what you think about this,
Correct.
and getting
Right.
that feedback, I
Right.
think that's very important for our community, especially in the Black and brown communities.
Right. And then you have what I love about the barbershop is, like I said, a lot of people are going toward the suites and everything. Like they want to keep it kind of be alone, but we still need the shops. You know what I mean? We still need the shops where people can come in there and bounce ideas off each other, talk about business or talk about losses. We see, in the Instagram, Facebook, scenarios and stuff like that. Everybody only talks about the wins. We don't, you talk about your losses. That's why I've won so much by looking at my losses and assessing them and what went wrong and stuff like that. You can't always win. It's not always pretty. Like you were saying earlier, business it's not what it looks like on Instagram.
Not at all.
I know you got to fake it to make it, but some people be faking it.
For sure, 100%. All cap.
Yeah, facts.
For sure. So how have you seen the shop evolve with the culture from the OGs to the younger generation? Like, how has the shop evolved?
I just Lane, you have, at one time I had until recently, I had 4 generations of people. I was cutting the great grandfather, the grandfather, the dad, and the son. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff I love. Like I've been able to touch every generation in some of these families, or I've been cutting some kids' hair since they were 3 years old.
Yeah.
And 3, 4 years old, some of them, and now I'm cutting their sons, and they're bringing their kids through that. And not only that, I got people that are in different parts of the country, and a lot of people that are outside the country, and they'll come and tell me what I meant and stuff like that. And that's when you realize, like, it's beyond just
haircut.
You handing me $30, $40 or whatever, and they're coming and tell me what I meant to them in their life. That's the most important thing.
Definitely. So in these over two decades being in the barbershop, what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome to still be there to be able to serve the community?
I'll start with price point. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because although we got to pay the same. We got to buy eggs. Everybody's talking about eggs.
Mm-hmm.
We got to buy the same eggs. I got to pay them. I got to pay a mortgage. I got to contribute to the house.
Yeah.
And I have to look at other people's, or I feel like the need, because it's a personal business, not just a business, a personal business.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually touching these people. I know their mothers. You know what I mean? I know your grandmother. I know your kid. I know if you lost your job. Yeah. A lot of times when you walk in McDonald's or wherever, they don't know this guy just lost his job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that you have to navigate or think about is being sensitive, but it's a business.
Yep.
It's a business, so I have to be like this.
Yeah.
So, like everybody's talking about the tariffs and that type of thing, that affects me, or the layoffs, that affects me.
Yep.
Everything, it's a trickle down thing. Like as long as everybody's doing good, I'm good. But when the things start getting smaller, and you know what I mean?
That's one of the first things that's cut on someone's budget. It's like, I'll cut my hair myself, or I'll grow it out.
I grow it out. I get dreads. Or anything like that. And it's nothing personal. I mean, I understand it's business, and but we have to, depending on where we are, like even if we're in some of the suburbs, they have the same thing, going on. Like especially, and they mortgage might be $5,000 a month.
Yep.
So they have to start cutting here and cutting there, and one of the first things they're gonna do is not get a haircut every week. They get a haircut every 2 weeks, or that type of thing.
So how did you end up finding like the good price point, or like what are some things that you did to figure out, okay, this is just how I'm gonna have to run my business when it comes to the price point?
I mean, I'm still, honestly, like, what people don't understand is when you're in business, you're learning every day. It's not a thing that stops. You know what I mean? Like you're still learning. So I have to, like, my wife, she's like, she helped me find money.
Yeah.
You know, where I was buying this and buying that and doing this and doing that, and like, you know, when I found out, I'm like, dang, I make good money, and I don't see it all the
Where's
time.
that?
I don't see it all the time, but
Yeah.
because it's a cash business,
Right.
but you know, you start going to the bank, and you know, I have to make, because it's a cash business, I got to make sure that my cash doesn't look, number one, illegal to the feds or to the
Right.
banks, and so I can get a loan or I can do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure I make deposits and pay taxes and file taxes, you know, because, you know, it's a cash business. So I can pretty much say, hey, I only made $30,000 last year.
Right.
But I actually didn't. Or I can say I made whatever, you know, but I have to be honest with my business.
Yes. And I think that's so great to mention, because I think in our culture, that's a lot of times we were just taught wrong. Like, even at the end of the year for your taxes, people think, well, let's say we got all losses so that we can get money back. But then when it's time, when funding comes out for small businesses, you can't get any funding because you've been showing the IRS that you have lost
you ain't made
for
nothing.
eight years in a row, you know. So I think that is the important part of, like, handling your business like a business. And I do business coaching. I always tell my clients, like, if you don't have the proper setup for your business, have it registered, your business account, policy and procedures, all of those things, then is this really a business? This is more of a hobby. Like, this is just something that you're consistently doing. But if you want to actually have a business, there's a whole structure that you have to implement within that business. And that's what I hear that you have done and are doing.
And, you know, a lot of, you know, and I'm going to say this, my business is a pretty much a felonious business, meaning felons. A lot of felons go from, or they'll make the pivot from being in the streets, and they'll be like, okay, I can cut some hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're not taught, you know what I mean? Like, we're not taught that this business that we're in, or that we choose to do with our lives and stuff like that, if we don't do it, number one, you can go to jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go to jail over not paying taxes and having all this cash and stuff like that. Is no different.
Yeah. Man, this is good. I hope people rewind and pay attention. So let's move to the Rockin Hood Foundation. So it started right there in the barbershop?
Yeah, it did.
Definitely. So what's I know what earlier you kind of talked about what sparked the idea was that one experience with the mother that came in there, and it was like, okay, you adopted that child. And so how did you go from there to a whole foundation?
It was more kids. You know, I just noticed the you know, you started, when you get around people a lot, like I said, it's a personal business. I'm around these kids a lot. I'm around their parents, and you see it on them. Like, if you pay attention, some people just got their head, you know, stuck wherever, and they don't pay attention to the people.
Yeah.
And that's what you know, God blessed me with, to be able to pay attention to people. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you see people and you see what you went through.
Yeah.
You know, in them people. Like, I can tell when a person they got a mask on.
Yeah.
You know, they're not really happy. They're smiling.
Yeah.
Because it's expected, or they, you know, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, all these, you know, social media platforms have people thinking that everybody's doing well. They're not.
Right.
They're not doing well. You know, I have my problems. Like, it's tough to run a business, and it's dependent on other people being successful.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
right down to the barbers that's in there. Like, I eat last. I got to make sure this guy pays his booth rent.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I got to make sure he's good enough. And that's another thing. I'm training.
Yep.
And I'm telling people, like, some people from the hood, they're from the street, and I'm telling them, hey, I'm from that. So a lot of times, like, if you talk to my family, they don't articulate themselves the way I do. I had to learn this.
Yeah.
And I have to teach this. Like I said, each one teach one earlier. I'd have to teach them how to articulate themselves, and you know, you can use slang when needed. You know, I can slang with the best of them, but
definitely.
But when it comes to business, I have to. This is a business. It's your business. You might look at it small, and that's what I'm saying, thinking, and that's what even recently, God put on my heart, like, you've been small too long. Like, it's time to grow.
Yeah.
You can't look at your little business as a little business. We get caught up in that where people say your little business or your little this or your little that. It's not. It's no different than McDonald's. McDonald's started out small. Amazon started out selling books and a little bitty room and you know what I mean. Like all of these things, if you study business. And in a lot of these models, it started small,
Very much
but
so.
you have your eye on the bigger picture.
And I think that starts with the visionary or the CEO or the leader behind the business, because it's only going to be as big as you see it.
Right.
And so one thing, I was blessed with parents that come from entrepreneurship. My mom, like I told you, has a business, but my dad worked a job 42 years, 7 days a week. So I got to see both. I got to see the entrepreneurship and the dedication to one thing, But what they always told me was to dream big. So when I saw this business, I saw it as big as you could possibly see it. So when it was bringing on team members and other people, they believed in it because that's how I saw it. But if I only thought, okay, we just got a little warehouse and we just doing podcasting in the back of the warehouse, then that's how people are going to treat it. They're going to come in here like it's a little warehouse and we just doing podcasts in the corner. And so I think that's so good that you brought that up. It's like, think big. God blesses us with these big visions. He's not giving us anything little. He's blessing us with big vision. And so it's up to us to be obedient and do the things that we need to do to actually bring these visions to reality.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. Sometimes we get caught up in this thing where people tell you to be humble.
Yeah.
You can't be humble when you're doing something for God. God don't want you when you do stuff for God and it's God's work. You can't be humble because these and I come from that, but the drug dealers and they see the scammers and the strippers and and I'm not taking away from nobody's business. Everybody got to do what they got to do. Like I said, I come from that, but they're stunting. You know what I mean? They shining. Why can't you shine and be doing a good thing? These kids need to see beautiful black women living in that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm doing good. I drive a nice car and I'm working.
Yeah.
And I'm articulate and I'm not twerking everywhere. And and the same thing about with the men. They need to see men, the boys, they need to see men that are thriving and living and shining and everything like that. And they say, okay, he doing it, and he's not out here jacking nobody, killing nobody, or nothing like that. He's working every day, and they need to see the work ethic because a lot of them don't have that at home.
Definitely. That's real big. So your mission is rooted in self-esteem and confidence for youth in underserved communities. Why is that so important to you personally?
Man, I was those kids.
Yeah.
My mom, like I said earlier, my mom had to make life decisions based on an everyday thing, and it was a struggle every day, and it was a decision to make, and it was these are life decisions. You know what I mean? And some of these kids, they're gonna be forced out in the streets. You know what I mean? And the streets is not for us. They don't love you. We're taught it looks like love because you're not getting it at home.
Right.
But you're not taught real love from, like I said, I come from that. But being one of those kids where my mom, 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, pair of shoes, a pack of underwear, a pack of socks, get it. Go get it.
Yep.
Go do it. And that's what I had until next time, or until income tax, or until, you know what I mean, like, or hand-me-downs and stuff like that. And your appearance does affect your schoolwork. But kids are cruel.
Very much so. Very much so.
Kids are cruel. They're going to talk about you like a dog. Like, look at that, look at that. And like I said, it even goes as far as a edge up. Like people, I don't know if you have any boys, but
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old son.
if you ask him about if his edge up isn't straight,
Yep.
or you know what I mean?
And I didn't realize how bad. I mean, growing up in school, it was still like that when I was in school. Bullies or people just having negative comments. But today, it's a whole nother ball game. Like, because I would wonder why my kids would be so adamant about certain things. Like, I gotta have it like this, and I'm like, why?
Because they're gonna hear about it, and it's gonna affect. You wonder why a lot of these kids are fighting?
Yep.
Because somebody said something. I stayed in trouble.
Yeah.
Because somebody would say something about the clothes I had on, or that type of thing, or whatever it was.
And it really affects them. Like my oldest daughter, who's 19 now, when she was in school, she's never had a perm, so she's always had natural hair. But she had natural hair before little kids were having natural hair. So she would get teased, and they would talk about her hair because it wasn't straight, or she came to school with a ponytail. By the time she leave, it's a big puff roll, and so I had to actually pay attention. I started to realize that every time she came home from school, she was sad.
Right.
And I'm like, what is it? And she finally told me that they would laugh at her hair. And I had to tell her, I said, we'll do whatever we need to do, but don't worry about what those kids saying. We're not going to perm your hair, because when you get older, you're going to appreciate having all of this natural hair. And now she does hair. She's an advocate for natural hair. She loves that. Yeah. But it started when she was younger. Awesome. And if she didn't have the support at home to tell her, it doesn't matter what they say, you're still beautiful, that could have really affected her in ways to where she could have cut her hair, anything, Yeah. And so I think that's why I love what you're doing with your organization, because that self-esteem piece and that confidence piece with kids, that's what matters. Like that's what's going to either put them on this path or this path.
Right. And then you got grandmothers that have their kids, they on fixed incomes.
Yeah.
We don't think about that. You're on a fixed income. You're getting your whatever on the 1st or the 15th, whatever it is, and they got to do all of this with whatever they got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And clothes is the last thing in the world somebody's worrying about sometimes. And like I said, these kids are cruel. They're gonna hurt your feelings. And the crazy thing about it is all of these kids have these same problems. It's just this parent, they might have somebody to give them something. Or, you know what I mean? Like, or you might have a cousin that wears your size, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or you have somebody that's looking out for you. But everybody, the first of the school year, they're gonna have these same problems. Like, what can I do to get these kids to school?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So in your organization, are there specific programs or experiences that you create to help them build their self-esteem? Like, what does that look like in building the self-esteem with the youth?
Well, we start with, like I said, with because it's I'm gonna call it a barbershop initiative. Mm-hmm. We start with that. We have some of the best, like in August, we have some of the best stylists, barbers, and just good people, just really good people that believe in the work, or they might have been through with it, through what I'm telling you about I've gone through, or whatever. So we start there, and we give them clothes and shoes. We give them uniforms, shoes, socks, underwear. People don't even understand. Some people don't have underwear and socks.
Yeah.
Small as that is, or small as you might think it is. Feed them. It's a beautiful, good time at Worthing High School every year, from where we started. And the principal, Miss Gregoire, she was good enough. Well, it's a whole story, but she's good enough to let us have access to the building all day, the Wednesday before back to school.
Shout out to her. This is so needed. So you lead your business with a heart for people. How do you balance entrepreneurship with philanthropy and community service?
Tough. It's tough.
Trust me, I understand.
It's tough because my heart says this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my mind and my business mind says that.
Yep.
But now I'm getting to a point where I understand God is going to take care of everything, and he don't want me to be small. I've been thinking small. I've been thinking safe. He don't want me to be small and safe and all that. He wants people to see it.
Yep. He wants people, I see it as he wants people to see him through the work that we
Right.
do, and I agree with that 100%. 100%. So what advice would you give to other business owners who want to give back but don't know where to start?
Start.
Just get started.
It can start. It started with one. I would have never thought at last count we had 717 kids, and we're not even talking about and I'm not talking about in respect to people that do the backpacks and that type of thing, but backpacks and school supplies and stuff like that, because we're in a computer generation and
Yeah.
it's pretty much obsolete. So, but we're talking about school clothes, we're talking about socks, underwear, lunch money. We've given away, when COVID was going on, we gave away computers and tablets and stuff like that. Like I say, my village, my people that I'm around, they're awesome people. And I can't even sit up. It's not enough time for me to thank everyone. But start. It's as simple as starting, or like we do, we partner.
I was just about
we
to
partner
say.
together because we can reach more people together than just one entity.
Yep. 100%. So you talked about being an advocate for mental health and wellness and things like that. So what does wellness mean to you in the context of your work with both your clients and the youth?
Me personally, being able to cope with life circumstances, everything that's going on every day. You're gonna run into a situation every day.
Yep.
I can be in a good mood, and wifey might not be in a good mood. I gotta navigate that, and then that could throw off my balance,
Yeah.
And you have to navigate all these things. Like, we never know this person that's at this cash register at Jack in the Box
Right.
had a death, and she can't get off work and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm an advocate. I talk to kids about my problems and stuff that I've gone through as a youth and as an adult, to make them understand they're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. You're not the only one, wherever the camera is. You're not the only one that's going through things.
Right. You're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. And drugs and that type of thing is not gonna make it better. You have to talk to somebody, reach out to someone who you consider an OG or whatever. Talk to your mother, talk to a friend that's not gonna ridicule you.
Yep.
And stuff like that.
For sure. So as we approach our last segment, which I called the Blueprint for Impact, because I feel like the work that you're doing is very impactful. And so culture, mentorship, and responsibility. Barbershops have always been a culture hub, especially for Black men. How do you see your role in shaping conversations and confidence?
Like I said, start with the conversation. You just said start with the conversation. Make a person feel welcome,
Right.
invited into whatever we're doing, and like I said, just the haircut itself and introducing them to other people that's going through the same thing or whatever. If somebody needs a job, like I said, we got a true community in my shop. Like, if somebody needs a job, I just got someone a job the other day through other people that I know.
Yeah.
We're connected to a lot of people if you just open your mouth.
Yesterday I spoke at TSU, and they have Communication Week. So I spoke on a panel, and that's what it was mainly about, was communication. And that's what a lot of us on the panel kept stressing was, you have to communicate. You have to open your mouth. You have to learn how to network. You can't be afraid to speak up for the help that you need.
Right.
If you don't, relationships is what I feel really
Right.
takes businesses to another level, is the
right.
relationships you build. But you can't start building those relationships if you don't speak up.
You gotta open your mouth.
Definitely gotta open your mouth. So this isn't on my cue card, but I'm interested. What is the experience like for somebody that comes into your shop? Like, how are they greeted? Like, or not only how are they greeted, but what is it that you want them to feel once they walk out the door, whether they were with you or another barber?
I want them to feel welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. A lot of times, us as Black men, we walk around with this false sense of masculinity where you can't speak to another man, or you can't say anything that might be perceived as weak or whatever. And I try to take that mantra away, like cut that out.
Yeah.
Come on in here, be yourself. You know what I mean? We can do all that later
Yeah.
if needed. But right now, especially like I said, if people need you, if they need to be comfortable enough to be able to come in and feel like, hey, I can talk to this guy about this, or I can say this, or whatever. So we got a beautiful, beautiful community of Black people that come together, and we rock out.
For sure. So, vision for the future. What's next for Rockin Hood and Rock Boyz Barbershop? What's next?
Bigger, better, bigger, help more people. Of course, make more money, and shine and put God's light. Let everybody know this is God's light. This ain't us.
Right. So, what are some upcoming things you have coming up?
Well, in August we have the back to school bash that we always do. I'm always looking for sponsors and that type of thing. If you want to know I love for people to come in there and see where your money's going.
Yeah.
I need you to see where your money's going.
Yeah.
So you can understand that nobody's padding their pockets with it and that type of thing. But I'm always looking for sponsors, donors, and stuff like that, and other partnerships.
So let's start right there. So for the event, August, how do people get more information? If they are interested in sponsoring, partnering, donating, how do they do that?
You can reach out to myself or info@rockinhood.org.
Okay, we'll make sure we put that in
I
the
appreciate
description.
that.
For sure. So for the barbershop, anything coming up? Anything big?
Like I said, we're moving. We're moving to a bigger, better space. It's still in the same area, but it's
I was just gonna say, is it in the same community?
It's still in the same community. But we're moving to a bigger, better space, and we're just waiting on that to happen. And we got a lot of stuff that we'll be planning. I'll keep you in tune with that.
Okay, love that. So, if you had to pass the Clippers to the next generation, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Like I said, each one teach one. He's not heavy. He's my brother.
Love that. I love that. So I just want to take the opportunity before we wrap it up. Like I told you, I'm big on the youth. So I always take a segment where you could look into that camera right there and speak directly to the youth. So any young men out there that's wanting to become an entrepreneur, or maybe they're lost and they just don't know what to do next, what would be your advice to them?
Speak to an older person who's not only successful, but people who've messed up, failed. I've learned more through failure than success, and garner as much information as you can and find problems and solve them. That's business.
All righty. And one more time for people that want to support the mission, get behind you, if you can give them that email address one more time.
info@rockinhood.org. You can actually pull it up when you look at the website, you can see a lot of stuff that we do. And if not, also we're on Rockin Hood on Instagram as well.
Definitely. So we'll make sure that we put all that information down in the description. This conversation has been one that I have truly enjoyed because I believe in community. As you know, at Community Cultivation Network, that's what we're all about. So just everything that this organization's done, everything that he's talked about, and just the impact that y'all are having in the community. Hats off to that. So please, y'all, stay tuned. We gonna continue to bring more people on the show and talk about what it really looks like to build a business in real time and overcoming challenges and just really community. That's what it's all about. Community is the biggest thing for me. That's what has grown this platform and this podcast and this business. So y'all stay tuned and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.